Hello, this is a small presentation of Ncurse's debugger based on per debugger. Let me introduce. My name is Igor. I'm co-author of develpdb, this module for debugging in Ncurses. I'm working in OpenAir from Oracle, so let's go to small presentation. I write some test PL file and we try to debugging in Ncurses debugger. So this is the debugger looks. You open it in 3 windows. One is source, second is lexical variables, and third is watches. Switch between those windows. You can use functional key F1, 2, 3. You can use functional key for step into function like F7. F7, we are in this function, so F8 is step over, so we can see how can variables push given string. So F6 is step over, yeah, and we can do next iteration. We can add some breakpoints. This is okay, F9. So we put breakpoint in this place. F5 is to continue, and we can finish. So I will open again. We can use breakpoint with some condition. This is Control O. One moment. I put condition when $E is equal to 5. So, tada! We are in program when $E is 5. So next K is who use VI. So every of us know what is slash do, so we can try to find say with big capital N is to skip to go to previous, N is to next. We can find on each window what we want. Yeah. So we can we can do some evaluation. So now we are here. Dollar is 5, so we can put $E to 7. Oh, sorry. I will remove the breakpoint. Dollar is 7. So now dollar is on 7. We can add some watches. We can switch to watches. And what do you want? Delete, edit, yeah, and other stuff. This is small test, so we can open something bigger. So now in menu is another functionality like showing compiled files. Yeah. 1 minute? Yeah. Next is opened file. We can go to given opened file. We can put the breakpoint. We can go to lexical variables. Yeah, we can try to find. We can export it to some file. Yeah, we can do what you want. Open in stack. Sorry. Open in stack window. It's again. So open in stack shown us where we are. I think that's all. There is a lot of fun. You can enjoy it. Thank you. Yeah.
So, pull your...
Well, the Department for Work and Pensions is one of the largest departments in the British government. Last year they awarded a contract to Adzuna, who are sponsoring this conference, in their hiring. And Adzuna then brought me in to help them. And in May of this year, we delivered a website called Find the Job. Find the Job is the second highest traffic website, so it's a really high profile site. And it's all written in Perl, and the previous system wasn't written in Perl. So that's some good news.
Okay, hello. I'm Choroba. I'm from Prague, and I work for Good Data. I'm going to present DBD MariaDB. So it's a new Perl driver for the MariaDB database. And the first question probably everyone has is, why? Because we already have DBD MySQL. So I'll try to explain. It's because there were really severe security issues related to SSL in the DBD MySQL driver. Its Unicode support is completely broken, and its support for placeholders is also broken in some cases. And the newest versions of MariaDB clients is poor. Plus many more. You can click on the many more and see the list of fixed issues later, once I publish the slides. Okay. So, some details on the security issues. There were two real vulnerabilities. They were real because they have names, logos, and pages. Again, you can click on them and read more about them. Basically, what happens is that you think that you are using SSL connection to the database, but in fact, the SSL has been dropped and you are connected with a non-secure connection. So the new client refuses to connect to the server or client if it detects that the library is broken. Unicode support. In MySQL, you can specify the server encoding, the encoding of the default database, encoding of the statement sent by the client, encoding to translate an incoming statement to, encoding of the results sent to the client, encoding for a particular table, and encoding for a particular column. So this is a bit complex, and on top of that, it's a bit broken from the Perl side. So UTF-8 in MySQL is in fact 3 byte. So you cannot use the whole, all the characters. To use all 4 bytes, you have to switch to UTF-8 MB4. In the Perl driver, Latin 1 was the default. Now it's UTF-8 if it's possible. If it's not, it's the 3 byte crippled UTF-8. The UTF-8 support for placeholders was broken because it used this set names UTF-8 setting in the database, but it needs to be followed by a call to a C function. But this function was not being called, so we fixed that as well. Okay, so DBD MariaDB by default uses Perl Unicode characters, not bytes, similar to what other database drivers do, Postgres, for example. The code was originally just a patch for the DBD MySQL. It was accepted, it was merged, but the old code in some cases stopped working because it relied on the behavior, buggy behavior. So there was a large backlash of legacy code maintainers, and the changes were reverted. And we waited for a long time, and in the end we decided to just to fork the driver. So, okay, so I'll probably skip the example. You can again check how a number in the original driver was parsed in C. It's a very funny picture. Okay, so we currently test each version in Travis CI. We have 137 different combinations of Perl client and server versions. Well, still not enough. We discovered some problems on BSD systems, so if anyone can help us, we great. And thanks go to Pali. It's the main programmer, and he wrote almost all the code, and it's really something magnificent. Never mind. Okay, and thanks go to Good Data for paying him for doing this, for sponsoring open source. And by the way, we are hiring. Thank you.
You remember when NPM, one of the NPM modules got hijacked, and same thing happened for a big module for Python as well. So I got curious and trying to find if anything like that was seen before. But so far I couldn't get a number of people. I'm planning to write a blog post for that. So if you know anything about that, please talk to me in online. Yeah? It's working. Or you got some information. What's that?
How do we reach you? Who are you?
My name is Q1. You can reach me. You can ping me in Telegram or IRC. It's KYZN. Just type something in IRC.
Hi, I'm Julian. I'm going to talk about test class Moose, but first, so yesterday I was explaining this to someone, and they asked me, how does this work? Do you have more information? So I was like, yeah, I gave this talk 2 years ago. I can give it again. I still have it. So if you're new to the community, and maybe I'm a bit late in saying that, but if you're new and someone talks about something that you might want to know more about, it's totally okay to go to them and ask them to give a lightning talk about it. That's fine. We do that. Please, don't be afraid to do that. So, test class Moose, write your tests as Moose classes. Why do we test? Well, it's probably a good idea to write tests, right? We have a lot of code. So large applications hopefully have a lot of complicated tests. There's a large test suite. And there are probably long T files, and they are horrible. But what can we do about it? So how do we tackle that? Well, test code is production code, right? Because we use it to make our code work. So it's production code. And production code often nowadays has classes. So that's what a class looks like. Probably in Moose, there's a person, has a name, has an age, and maybe can have a birthday where they get older. Right. So why shouldn't tests have classes too? It's like a one-to-one relationship. Sounds reasonable. So that's what a test class for that class could look like. So we've got use test class Moose, we've used the person, and we say test the birthday. We make a new person, we give them a name and an age, and then we verify in this case the age is right, and if they birthday, the age is one more. It's fairly simple. Right. So we need a way to load this, because that was just code that doesn't actually do anything without being run. So we make a new file, and we say test class Moose load in this directory, tlib, and then we use the runner, and the runner just goes and finds all the little classes and runs them. So if we take a look at the directory structure, it just looks like that. There's a lib directory with the regular code with the classes, and then there's a tlib directory with one or more test classes for every class, and we have this T file that we run. So let's run it. I run it, and there's this very nice structured output. So we have our tests. Bob starts with the right age, then they get older. That's cool. Right. So let's add another test. So let's say we test the constructor. It's a bit contrived, but yeah, if we don't pass enough argument, it dies. That's the test dying, not Bob. Right. So now we've got a little bit more output. It's still very structured. It's good to read. By the way, name your tests like business cases, not what I did here. I mean, those are okay-ish, but name them like business cases, kind of what Ovid does. So an overview. There is one test class for each class, or maybe more, and then there is a test underscore sub for every test case or method. And it's probably a good idea if you have lots of those to structure it a little bit more. But what else can we do? So since this is Moose, actually you can add attributes to your test classes, right? So you can have a database handle, and you can only you can make that a default, and then it only gets created once, and it can be reused in all your test methods, which is kind of useful because it saves time. And you can organize your tests into logical units. So you can add tags, and then when you run them, you can say, I only want the ones for the API, or I want the ones for the database or the network, or maybe only the ones that don't use the internet because I don't have internet right now, and maybe I need it. You can filter them, that's what I just said. So you can exclude them or include them, and you can run them. It's pretty simple. And this is a bit outdated. There is a newer API that makes this a lot easier from the command line, but I haven't updated the slides yet. I might and put them online. We can only run specific classes, which is also fairly simple. It's just a very easy filter. And then test class moose gives you everything that test most has. So it's strict and warnings automatically. It's test more, test exception, test difference, test deep, and test one. We still have to remember it's Moose. There are subclasses that you can make. So you can subclass them, put common things into the base class, and you can use roles, which is really, really nice. Like you can load in database or www.mechanized stuff if you need it, but not in every test class because maybe you don't need it. So it's called test class Moose. Ovid wrote it. Ovid is probably still here. So ask him stuff about it. It's currently maintained by Dave Rolski. Thank you very much.
Sorry, nearly had it. Sorry.
Which is the same day as the Knowledge Pro workshop. If you can make it that one, maybe you can make it ours. We are in the Factor Capital City Bern. Easy to get to, 2 hours on the train.
Okay.
Come along. Thanks.
My name is CJ Merello. You probably know me. So if you try this test for Perl 6, it's pretty much like this. You see the clock, which is melting. It's running for 9 minutes because basically what it's doing is downloading the whole Perl 6 thing, Raccoon and everything. It's compiling it, and then it's running your test. So it takes 6 minutes to compile everything, and then 30 seconds to run your test. I got something good for you. Use Docker. So you can use this .travis.yml exactly like this. You don't need to do anything else. If you don't have any other dependency or anything, just do this, copy and paste this. This is my Docker file. It's called test Perl 6. It's usually updated to the latest Perl 6 version. And then you'll have 2 minutes, 39 seconds, because it takes nothing to download a Docker file. That's fast. And that's it. Thank you very much. But since I have some time left, I have been asked to do an announcement. So this is Barcelona Perl Friends. They have been having this very wonderful workshop. It's like the second Saturday of November. It's going to be next Saturday, 17th November 2018. It's Perl and Friends, so if you got anything Perl related or that could be interesting to people who like Perl, please submit a paper. The CFP is open right now. Please do it. It's going to be awesome. Thank you very much.
Next.
My first time in Scotland, and I would like to visit Edinburgh tomorrow. If anyone wants to join me, so if you want to join, please find me somewhere around.
Do you want a handheld or that one?
And we will find out what we can do. I'm thinking.
Can I plug this up for a second? Pull it out, yeah.
If you like the idea of Perl 6 getting faster, please get you or better still your boss to contribute the company's money into the Perl 6
I really hate this thing.
Pull
Pull that out full screen there.
Yeah.
Hey, contribute money to Perl
There we go. There we go.
Plug it in again.
Sorry. Yep. There we go. Wait for it to trig. And then now just.
Okay, my name is
present.
Theo. If you just enjoyed watching the talk from JJ about Docker, if you enjoyed watching Docker
Do you want to walk
from
around or do you want to use
Wesley, where
I'll
are
use
you?
that one.
Wherever.
Thanks.
There. If you enjoyed that guy who was talking about Docker, if you like to do anything sensible with DevOps, if you like to program in Python, please talk to us. What? Perl, don't talk to us. We have a wonderful company called Zaaksysteem in the Netherlands. If you like to work in the Netherlands, talk to Wesley, talk to me, talk to some other guy. Well, please come.
Hello, I'm doing a little talk about bringing Perl 6 into production. So, my name is Jason. I'm on London PM IRC as Jason C, and I work for Atticon in Linz at the moment. Recently, we've been working on a new project, and one of the things that we were thinking about is when a customer calls, when their customer calls a call center operative, they have to look up, our operative has to look up the customer. We also have a asterisk PBX, which constantly tells us all the phone numbers that are coming in and out, and who the incoming calls are. Now, we have the access to the phone number, and if we can use the phone number to look up the customer, and then actually give that information straight to our call center operative, which will let them find out who they are faster. So, what we needed was something that could actually continually listen to the PBX and have a connection to each of the call center users. Now, that seems like it would have been very hard in a lot of frameworks, and so what we thought about doing was actually just using Perl 6. So for this, we used IO socket async to connect to the PBX, and it will just constantly go through and reading through everything that it's outputting. And we use Crow as a small web server, using the WebSockets to actually communicate with our call center users. So when, as this was going on, all of the events would come through. IO async would, when it has a dial event coming through, which is when a call is coming in, the async will contact the Crow server, emit to the Crow server, and it will go into this lovely little supply, which will, whenever the listener is actually sharing something, it will be passing the data into the call event. We have a pool of different WebSockets for each of the call center users, defined by their phone number. And then when we have the right one, and then we pick one by random, and then we just send it straight to the user, and then it will look up and bring up a page showing the customer's contact details and information, which I believe is very handy for them, so they can actually get to talking to the customer straight away, rather than having to look them up, find out who they are, and all those little bits of details. And that is one of the nice things was it was small and simple, and it didn't require any big integration with the rest of our code base, and it was just very easy to achieve. So that's me. Thanks.
There we go. Grab that up. There we go.
Cheers.
Lightning survey. Right, hands up, who's away?
USB-C.
Okay, cool. Now, my left-handed, my boss is left-handed. Boss is left-handed. It's not
This is easy.
So, if anyone wants to participate, hands up if you're left-handed. Hands up if you're right-handed. Nah. Anyway, thank you.
All right. So I'm here to talk a little about Contributor Covenant Code of Conduct. My name is Kiwanj. My username is KYZN. And I work at ZipRecruiter, which is located in Santa Monica, California. And we're hiring Perl developers. So feel free to go to the URL you're seeing, ziprecruiter.com/careers, or talk to me or Ingi. Let's get to it. So when you registered for the conference, when you received your name cards, there was a little piece of paper
hidden in the name cards, and that included code of conduct for the conference. And I'm not going to read through it, but to summarize it, it's basically saying that the conference people are dedicated to providing a harassment-free conference experience for everyone, and that includes every single one that is here. So I would like to thank conference organizers and staff for adding that and actually enforcing that. That's a great thing to have. There is another code of conduct which I'm going to talk about today, and that is called Contributor Covenant Code of Conduct, which is very similar to Conference Code of Conduct. To summarize it, it's basically the same idea, but for open source projects. So once you have Contributor Covenant Code of Conduct in your open source project, it creates a more inclusive environment for everyone who wants to participate, who wants to contribute to your project. So apparently this text has been released about 4 years ago. And when you do a search on GitHub to find how many repositories have this copy, you get more than 40,000 repositories. And among those, you'll see some big names like Golang, Ruby, Rails, Swift, and many more. Now, if you go to cPanel and do the same search, the number that comes is 28. I think we can do better than this. So I'm going to give you a 3-step guide to how cPanel can be more inclusive. Step 1 is not just blindly adding the code of conduct to your project. Step 1 is to actually going ahead and reading the code of conduct. If you don't understand it, it doesn't make any sense to have it in your project. Once you read it and once you understood it, then you can go add it to your project. Now that you have it in your project, you're basically saying to other world that your project is welcoming contributions from everyone. And that's really easy. You just need to download the Markdown file, add your email, and put it in your repository. That's it. But I've only learned about this code of conduct in the Product Conference in Salt Lake City this year. And I made a thing that makes this step much easier. If you're using Distilla, all you need is to add this one line to your Destiny file. Or if you have a authored plugin bundle, add it there. It's even easier. And the last step, and the most important step, is actually enforcing it. So if you, just because you have a code of conduct file in your project doesn't mean anything. When someone comes to you complaining about a harassment they had to live through, you, as a maintainer, as a project leader, you have to take action and you have to step in. If needed, you need to remove contributions of offenders. If needed, you need to kick them out temporarily or permanently from project. You need to take those steps to create a welcoming environment. And that's it. Thank you. Sorry.
There are several calls for donations to the Pro 506 core.
HDMI or what was it called?
Maybe some of you have even done so. Asking your boss for some money for a donation, so is kind of lots of work for resulting.
Supplier?
You may know I like optimization.
No HDMI.
And asking for some money, that's kind of ON. And would like to get it down to O1. So that's what I did. So instead of asking for some sum of money, I asked for a monthly amount of money. And this is what I did. This is what what I did a couple of years ago. So every single month since then, our company has donated 500 euros to the Enlightening Pro.
This one is working? Yeah, that was working. The best one. Okay.
So this is an announcement, and I've got to be fast. The important thing is the whole discussion has been over in less than 90 seconds. Because for a company of our size, 500 euros per month is actually nothing.
Almost done.
So if you work at a company with at least 3 employees, ask for 100 euros per month. It's a rounding error in their finances. And 100 euros per month, that's a lot.
Okay. This talk is short enough to not screw up. Okay. First, I want to thank you, everyone. That was my first YAPC since 2012, and it was a great time during 3 days. I want to reply to Ovid. You know what? I'm completely agree with you about this problem of signature and so on, and we decided in the Sampa project to have this short boilerplate, so which is a module now on cPanel named Sympathetic, and a basic object is now declared like that. So it's short and it's typed, and we have a method and so on. Okay, about my lightning talk. It's about Strasbourg PM. We heard about people sharing feedbacks about running local PM, and I have mine to share, because we run a local PM because we have this we have purchased a long time ago showing, and it was yet another awesome, amusing, appealing, astonishing language to dive in. So Perl, thank you. Okay, so history. First there was the Java age, and in 12 BC, Argentorium was founded. It was a Roman military outpost. Now it comes to be named Strasbourg. In 2012, Strasbourg French Perl workshop was run, and it was a great conference. Everyone enjoyed it, and I decided to run a PM, a local PM. It was a burst of the PM and the fall of the PM, because no one nothing happened. No one showed up, and I made an announcement. I set up a mailing list and so on, and no one showed. But 2 years later, there was in my basement a hackathon with a friend, just playing with Perl, doing stuff in Perl, and actually some people start to join, and finally, a year after, we create a group which is Strasbourg Shared Object, which is not only Perl related. We are welcoming everyone, and just want to hack and enjoy. And now, 3 years later, we have finally 3 years of almost non-running weekly events. So we got every week Wednesday night, and I want to show you that, because finally I didn't do any more to make that happen, and it's great. So I will talk to you about the future if I have time. But first, lesson learned: do it or do not or don't. There is no try. This is Yoda. The idea is focus on what you can, not on what you expect or what you should. Because if you want to try to, for example, find a place to do something like that, it becomes complicated, and you are stressed by what you can't do. Starting with my basement, what I can, and it was a great start. Also, do the things you want to do, and do the things because you want them to happen. Also, be proud and happy about little steps. Starting with my basement with a poor Wi-Fi was enough to start. So the way to do that: find only one mate and have fun with him. Pick a regular place and a schedule. Wednesday, it's okay. Always finish with a beer and food, because it's important. Be welcoming, but also not grow too slowly, because people have to know each other, to be confident. So it's not an open public thing. Okay, people are from peer to peer, time to time, don't go to public with that. Respect the core when people have ideas. Also, I have this. This is a ritual I made, which is tips or get the fuck out. Which is basically everyone comes with one tip, something he learned during the week, and so it's a fun, inclusive ritual because every newbie can show something. There is a lot of discussion after. We don't have to prepare any slides, and it works very nice. Okay. Also, keep having fun doing people. Okay. Futurize. Yeah, let's. Thank you.
Good.
Hi everyone, I'm MS Perceptics. We're hiring Perl developers. We're all remote, so you can work from anywhere in the world, including be paid in euros if you want. So that will work, and we're Perl shop and hiring developers. So come see me or this man.
But it doesn't react.
Second thing that I wanted to talk about real fast was I'm going to the.
But it didn't show up here.
Bagpipe championship, about a mile that way.
Plug it again,
We have Highland Games tomorrow. Piping's in the morning. There's games in the afternoon. So come talk to me if you're interested in doing that. Thank you.
Lost and found. A black pen with letters I-O or something on it. Anybody's? I think it might be man. I thought so. Yes, right. About that. Thank you very much. I've had it since 1990.
Did I just see that or not? Anyone else?
Backpack.
Backpack. Just quickly, I was told there. Can I go? I was told there are alternative code of conducts for open source projects, which is awesome. Expect 4 more distributed plugins. Thank you.
I don't know if Finn can see it. Finn, can you see this? I love projectors. Oh yeah, they hate me. 1, 2, 3.
Hi, so I've got this XPS Dell laptop and it's great, but my Linux really doesn't work very well with it. If you have one of these and your Linux works, please talk to me and help.
You should have bought the one that came with the one too.
Who's hiring? Get up there and say it.
Hey! Okay, I won't be using a mic. Lots of you have been on my talk about ccdiff, and you had complaints and questions, and the first thing is you wanted to have configuration. Well, there is support for configuration. It now has a built-in manual, which is long. It now has you remember this one? This one? It shows you the content. This is the wrong one, I skipped it. There is indexes. If you don't know what colors to choose, there's a list of colors that your terminal defines now. You can play with that. If you want to play more, you have to write something that shows you it like this, so there's more options. But the most important, it's on cPanel.
It was released yesterday night during a whiskey in the bar.
That's yours. Next.
Are you hiring? No, I don't hire. Yesterday my
Go.
two very small things.
Were you HDMI or? Oh, it's that, yeah.
For the arrow message, which makes it nice, and it's every attribute that parameter you can destroy. They are totally protected. That's all. Oh. Most appreciated.
Yes.
Hi, this is about postcode validation. Because we have customers that enter addresses and we want to make sure what they enter is not blatantly invalid. So just a format check. For most countries, this is trivial. For example, for Germany, it's just 5 digits, that's it. What was unexpectedly difficult was the UK. My first stop was the Wikipedia page, which has, well, I think 6 different variants that it lists, plus about a dozen extra rules, restrictions, exceptions, but at the end there's a regex, a simple regex. This is a quote from Wikipedia. The regex is basically unreadable, but there's a link to a citation to an official UK government thingy PDF document. Just note that it starts with caret open paren question mark colon. If you follow the PDF, that's the link up there. That's a quote from the PDF. There's an expression plus an explanation in plain English, which is great. But note, it starts with caret, open paren, open bracket, G. That's not the same regex. Also concerning, if you scroll down a bit, it says at the end the length is between 2 and 8 characters. And if you live here, you probably know there are no 2-character postcodes here. So something's wrong. This is the regex reformatted for readability, reindented. You can see up top there's one special case, and I'm going to ignore that mostly, and there's the general case, the second bit, and it's complicated. Simplify, uppercase and lowercase, they're all listed explicitly. We don't need that. It doesn't add any extra information. We can just make the whole regex case insensitive, so that gives us that. Next thing is there are lots of redundant parentheses. We don't really need those either. If we remove those, we get that. Only one pair of parens is really necessary. We can re-indent, and then it looks like that. And I also made it non-capturing. Then we notice, well, there's an anchor at the front, the caret, but that only applies to the first part of the regex. There's a $ at the end that only applies to the second part. That's a bug. Fixing that gives us this. That's what Wikipedia did. Someone apparently noticed it and fixed that particular bug, not the other ones. Next thing to notice is the logic, the structure of this regex. The logic explanation in prose doesn't match that structure, but yeah. For example, here's a problem. It says the second letter is not I, but the regex also excludes Z. Wikipedia says I, J, and Z are not used in the second position, but the regex allows that, which is weird. And second part down here, similar, second letter, followed by one number and optionally a further letter after that. But the regex makes the digit optional, not the letter. I'm pretty sure the text is right here and the regex is wrong. So we have that. So let's just fix that, pull the question mark to the end down there. Now the letter is optional. Now we notice all the branches start with the same thing, a letter, A to Z. We can just pull that out, factor it, there. Now it's a bit simpler. Re-indent. There's a similar structure here. We have between 1 and 2 digits. That's just the digit followed by an optional digit. And now the first 2 branches are effectively the same. There's just an optional restricted letter in front of that. We can do that, which removes 1 branch, re-indent, pull that up. Then the last 2 branches are also almost the same. The question mark actually is not necessary. That's an optional letter at the end, but that's also already matched by the first branch, which has an optional digit at the end. And well, an empty string is both an optional digit, optional letter. We can just remove that without loss of generality. Then we also have a very similar structure in the last 2 branches. Just pull that together, optional first letter, then that, re-indent, then we have that. Then we again have a common prefix which you can pull out. Gives us that, re-indent. Then we have an optional digit or a letter, which is the same as this. Simplify, reformat, which gives us that, which I think is the most readable version of this, greatly reduced. My conclusions are, do not blindly copy any regex from the internet for UK postcode into your programs, because the official PDF is wrong, the one from Wikipedia is wrong, it only fixes one bug. The answers from Stack Overflow mostly copy one of these regexes. The official explanation is totally wrong, but I think the explanation on Wikipedia is actually correct. So if you have to trust anything, do that. Thank you.
Paul. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Dimitrios. I work at Sterling. And if you're interested in
Matt, you're up.
we're actually hiring. Yeah, just come find me after.
That over. Mike. Put that in for. I don't know where you're.
There we go. So this lightning talk is called SigFix, and in a huge departure from normal, I am not actually going to be showing any insane internals during the entire lightning talk, because I actually have a different purpose here. Because this is actually about a second departure from my normal form, which we'll get to in a moment. Subroutine signatures, experimental signatures, they're fantastic. It's so much prettier, much more pleasant to work with, right? But alas, they are still experimental, which means that they can change. So you have to be prepared, if you're going to use them, that you may have to modify your code at some point. And they have changed. 528, there is a noticeable change. In 520, you had sub, then the attribute list, then the signature. And then for 522, after much debate, people decided that it was actually more elegant to have the attributes afterwards. So in 522, it looks like that. Unfortunately, during the 528 development cycle, we discovered technical reasons why the prettier thing didn't work. So 528 now requires them before again. Now, this is, it's a little bit suboptimal for the people using Catalyst and signatures and various other things, obviously. Now, the experimental category exists for a reason. You can't say you weren't warned. But, of course, naturally, certain people decided to send SoyORX hate mail anyway. And this is where we get into my second departure from normal form, which is rather than dealing with the process by dousing them in gasoline and setting them on fire, I decided to obsolete their flaming bollocks with a very small Perl script. Happily, this is Perl. Everything is possible. And so, I have released a thing called app::sigfix, which provides a script called sigfix. Imaginative, I know. It's part of a distribution called Babel. I talked about that earlier. If you want to be terrified, watch the video later. So, if you have 526 code and want 528 code, sigfix in place, 2 signatures, list of Perl modules. Got 528 code, want 526 code, sigfix in place, all signatures, list of Perl modules. Want to be able to ship at underscore style code while still programming in like this century? Then get your distribution built first and then tell it to plain and it will turn it into our underscore unrolling. You can drop the -i to see the output first to be able to see what it's actually going to generate. And if you want to leave your original code intact, then if you pass it the --PMC option, it writes a PMC file next to the .pm instead of overwriting the .pm. If you want to generate code that uses all 3, depending on the Perl version, this is only supported for the PMC style, but if you provide no -2, it generates all three, inlines all three into the PMC, and then when it's loaded, jumps to the correct implementation for the correct Perl version based on asking the Perl interpreter what version you have. And finally, if you don't have code using signatures but want to, and are now thinking, ooh, actually, I can potentially safely use this now. I also wrote a Sigify plugin for Babel, mostly because I want to be able to run up to a legacy code base and shout, now Sigify! And so if you do Perl -m Babel filter equals Sigify, usual one-liner stuff, that will spot any my ... equals @ underscore at the front of the subroutine and converts it to a signature for you. Now, it just sticks it on the end, so if you wanted 526 compatibility, run Sigify and then Sigfix it. Welcome to Unix. You are allowed to run more than one command. And for once, I already cPanned it yesterday. Well, okay, admittedly, Sigify I cPanned about an hour ago, but everything else was yesterday. But in conclusion, don't worry, be Siggy. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks all for your donations. I just counted stuff and converted some euros and Swiss stuff to pounds. And we now have a very nice total of 258 pounds exactly for Mark's cancer initiative.
Ready?
Thank you very much.
Well, actually, before I start, there is one thing I'd like to show you. It's not showing up yet. All right, Command key if you're a Mac user. Oh, great. Yes.
One more donation box on my desk was donations to TBF, and I will divide it evenly for the Perl 5 and the Perl 6 development fund. 150 pounds. Thank you very much.
All right. Oh, that's fine. Before anything else, before my lightning talk starts, if you're a Mac user, if you want to do any live coding examples, please use this command K keystroke if you're in your terminal, because it pops up straight to the top of your terminal and anyone can read your code while you're doing live demonstrations. All right, that's not my talk. Start. All right, exclusive. Thank you, Ruth, for coming to the Perl conference. It was a wonderful time here telling about inclusiveness, people taking into the thing. Well, this is something that started years ago. I had some friends in Second Life. That's when I started doing Perl. And I was still writing Perl code. And once in a while, I'd like to have a pop-up on my Mac screen that, Theo, some friends of yours are signing in. All right, let's try to do that. Well, I started scraping the website from Second Life, trying to find out whose friends were there. There's a thing that says online 0 or 1. And yeah, try to build that kind of skeleton that looks like my application that says, all right, so I have some previous friend. I do a loop over 60 seconds, I do it again. And what will I do? I have my current friends, and then I want to see which ones are logged in or logged out based on the current friends or the previous friends. Then I do a loop over all my logged in friends, do a notification, and the ones that logged out, I do a notification and remove them. All right, so far so good. Now this thing, the kata, at least seems like everyone likes to do this over 30 years long. I had a problem in my code and I haven't solved it in a nice way, and people like to solve it. What's the problem? So I have two hashes, A and B, and I like to have some code, and then at the end of the code I like to have A2 and B2, which have only the key values that are unique to A or unique to B, and you can even do it to C if you want to. So more code or some kind of function in between it, however you want to do it. I have an exclusive, for example, and this is one of the examples from Jago. Jago examples is like, all right, you know what? I do a clone, and I do some looping, and I do more things here. I will do an if here, the keys exist, and if those exist, then I'll remove them from the hash. Fine, that works. Dave Sherman. He has another solution. He says, all right, you know what? I will loop and over an extra hash key meshes and start adding for 1 for the ones for A, 2 for B, and if your value will be 3 at the bottom, that shouldn't be in any of them. So, another one. A great guy, Marijn, always has some wonderful solutions, and he comes up with this solution. And, well, I like the other one he sent in, and it's doing maps and grabs and not exist and maps. And so we have all these nice things to do it. Now, the king of Tim Towdy, he had some other solutions. So he came up with Perl 6 solutions, and I do not know anything of Perl 6 other than it have some lovely syntax. But Tim Towdy 1 and 2 and 3, and the most lovely one with unit things and elements in there, I don't understand. But I do once in a while go to Liz and say, Liz, what about your solutions? And Liz said, all right, and Liz has always interesting Perl 6 solutions, I must say. And if she figures out there's a better solution, she will instantly program it. All right, she was thinking, symmetrical differences. Huh. And if you know anything about set theory, then symmetrical difference is nice if you have 2 of them. This is the symmetrical difference if you have 3 sets. And what we are looking for is the exclusive ones just outside. You're right. So, Matt, I spoke with him, and he has something interesting. He said, all right, the first time I will have a problem, that's fine. The second time, maybe it's a coincidence. And he will do probably something like Control-C and Control-V and copy-paste the whole thing. The third time he says, my time to start some generalization. And there was one guy I spoke with, and he said, oh yeah, you know what? Maybe on Meta cPanel there is a module. And yes, of course there's a module, has more utils to solve this problem. Jans Rejek made this thing, and then yes, there is a slice without thing. And then I looked at the Git log and said, oh, wow, it's me. Oh, I wrote that. Okay. So then there's me. And I said, all right, you know what? There's another solution. You know what? Create a module. So I created set hash keys, which has all these lovely things. It has a, you can put a key in it, a hash in it. It has the methods of adding more stuff to it. It has a, how do you call that? Inclusion thing? Intersection, yes, the intersection at the bottom, you can use that one. You can use union, you can do all these lovely things. There are tons of things for sets. And so, back to my problem. This was it. That's it. Launch on cPanel. This is the solution, or actually a solution. And I must say, the Perl community is a wonderful Tim Towdy thing, where people accept each other's solutions to anything. Thank you very much.
So I'm here 2 days this weekend, and I was planning on getting the 2-day
the wide one. HDMI wide.
Yep. Saturday and
Goes
Sunday.
right around here.
Yep. Get the bus for 2 days. It only costs £1 more. Buy in bulk and save.
Do you want a mic?
All the way in
No. I just gotta. Yeah, I can't use a mic.
Both of, links to both of those can be found on the wiki in the BA Tourist page. So if you want to do either of those, do find them.
Just wait.
Thank you.
Oh, it was set to mirror mode yesterday, but yeah, you're right. Technical difficulties, more people. Sorry. Function. So you want to set it up? Yeah, why don't you handle it? So that works. You know, you can turn it back on. It's fine, actually. But thank you. Yeah, the camera said it'll make a better video, and I realized I don't really need it. Who was in the U.S. in 2013 YAPC? Anyone? All right, so this is a recycled talk, but this is a bit of a recycled community. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of new faces, and it was pretty good back then, and maybe you've even forgotten it by then. So, thank you. No. Oh yeah, cool. Okay, so I'm Ingy.net, and it's actually true. I'm named after a 15-year-old outdated website. There's a picture of me from a Perl open source conference in Paris in 2010. So who's heard of Rosetta Code? Oh, cool. Most of, because you're from the Perl and Perl 6 community, and Perl 6 loves Rosetta Code. So Rosetta Code, for you that don't know, it's a media wiki site that has, sorry, I checked, it has 900 to 1,000 tasks, depending on how you count them, and it has over 700 languages now, so it's 702 languages. So it's a matrix, and that matrix is about 700,000 possible solutions. Actually, there's multiple solutions to many things, so there could easily be a million, but it usually hovers around 10% completion coverage. Sorry, the wrong one. So it would be kind of cool to collect all of the programs and have them on your laptop. I did that. So there's a Git repository that you can clone called acmeism/Rosetta Code data. It'll probably take about 15 seconds to download, and you'll have 70,000 plus programs that you can play around with in all these different languages. So how did I collect them all? I actually wrote a cPan module, and it's called Rosetta Code, and you can actually run it yourself. I ran it this morning. I run it about every 6 months or so. Picked up about 500 new ones. Okay, so we talked a little bit about FizzBuzz. Who knows? Everybody knows what FizzBuzz is, right? Yeah. So there's 272 solutions to FizzBuzz on Rosetta Code currently. Of course, there's COBOL. There's a bunch of Perl ones, and they're much shorter. And there's a bunch of Perl 6 ones. I actually edited this one by just kind of taking out some white space, and I called it the shortest FizzBuzz to date. It's 44 characters long, but I found out yesterday somebody runs a FizzBuzz site that has it down to 37 in some language, but they won't share the solution. So maybe you could share that. Okay. So I'm searching through the FizzBuzz one day on Rosetta Code, and I found the coolest program I ever saw in my life. This was the SNUSP, whatever the hell that is, solution to FizzBuzz. It turns out SNUSP is a two-dimensional brain fuck. It was actually invented and only exists in a wiki page. On the original wiki written by Ward Cunningham, the C2, who's heard of C2.com wiki? It was Ward Cunningham's original wiki, way before Wikipedia or any of that stuff. So it's what kind of changed the world. And it's got lots of great SNUS programs in there. You can see them here. Okay. And so how would I run SNUS? Well, I couldn't run it because there's actually one executable, and it was only in that wiki page. So I'm like, I'm going to take all that stuff from the wiki page and load it to cPan. So I did that some years ago. But let's take a look in the terminal. Okay. So who's used cPan m-look? It's kind of cool. It actually will grab the module and just put you in a directory containing the module. So here we go. There's an example directory, and I'm going to look inside of that. And move this to the top. So let's look at some SNUS programs. Here's 99 bottles of beer on the wall, of course. Here's a bubble sort. It's kind of square. I like this multiply one. It's kind of crazy. But of course, here's FizzBuzz. So can we run this program in the terminal? Of course we can. So all we have to do is say snusp, which came from cPan, and example FizzBuzz. There you go, at the top. So it works. Yay. It's pretty cool, huh? But it wouldn't be an Ingy talk if it wasn't a little bit cooler than that. So there was also a debugger in the wiki page. So let's see how this thing works. I have to make it a little smaller because the debugger actually demands that the whole two-dimensional thing be on the page. So I have to make it one smaller. Here we go. Okay. So the way SNUSP works is it starts with a cursor that's in the northwest corner, or if there's a $sign, it starts on the $sign. This one has a $sign, and it starts moving to the east. So we'll step through it, single stepping. Whenever it hits a reflector, it bounces off it and moves up. Okay, basically, let's run through this. Look at the top, there's a register. We're actually creating the ASCII code points so we can print them later. A dot is the instruction that does the print. Only 10 of these characters do anything. Everything else is documentation and just gets skipped over. Okay, so I can actually run it, and it runs really slow, but if I hit the plus button, let's see what happens. Okay, so we're done with the initialization. We have all the letters we need to print FizzBuzz. Ooh, there's a 1 at the bottom. Everybody see that? There's a 1. There's a 2. And of course, hopefully, there's a fizz. Yay. Okay, so let's stop it and go. Okay, so now I'm going to single step through this. What's happening? Well, obviously, we're in a loop. If you look at the top, there's some brackets around a register that keeps decrementing. So it's the minus that will decrement. There's a question mark. What's that going to do, though? Well, hopefully I can stop this in time. Yes, okay. The question mark, when the register is 0, will skip out of the loop. So that exits the loop. And that's about all I've figured out about the whole thing. So, thank you.
You're on HDMI. Are you getting sound? I think it's just
I'm in Riga, and I hope to see you here next year at the Perl Conference 2019. It will be held in Riga, the capital of Latvia, for the second time in the history of this conference. We have everything here. The beautiful view of the old city just behind me, the venue, which is located in the Radisson Blu Hotel just across the bridge. We have food organized, we have everything already. All we need is just your attendance and your talk submissions. If you love Perl, come to Riga. The main conference days will be 7th to 9th of August 2019. So just book your flights, book the hotel, and come here.
I think this will be a benefit to the entire program.
Should have warned us, we could have put it better.
And that is the end of the lightning talks. Some reminders for speakers, lightning or otherwise. You can edit your talk on the website and put in the slides. That's where you can put it wherever you want anywhere in the world. And some of you may have noticed that the people up here speaking had never spoken before, as some of them had never even been to the conference before. You've been to the conference now, so you don't have that excuse next year.
I think you can put that in beforehand and add the other display monitor in previously. Yeah, just works. Hello. We are good. I'm feeling better now. One room to clear up, pack up some stuff, make sure Ruth gets to a hotel, and then I'm driving home. That seems really good right now. That seems fantastic, in fact. So, a few words, then I'm going to let you all go and do your stuff. You mentioned about things that you might want to do this weekend. I come up here a lot, and I do mean a huge amount. Edinburgh Festival's still on, and if you've never experienced it, it's just something else. You just go there even for a day, it's really fun. However, if you want something a bit more beautiful, well, for me anyway, you can just take a little train drive, it's about 30 minutes, to a place called Balloch. It's the gateway to, well, pretty much gateway to the Trossachs, which is a national park. You'll get off the train, and there's a loch in front of you, and mountains. And it's beautiful, even if it's raining. So if you don't want to do anything that's city-based, go there. And if you've got kids, go to the Science Museum. It's the best one in the UK. They can push and pull everything. And so can you. And there's a soft play in there for younger kids. And there's a digital planetarium that's fantastic because they watch stuff you can get 30 minutes sleep. They have a really loud noise to wake you up just before the end. So you look like you're there and you got glasses on. You sleep with the glasses on. Yeah. Yeah, I was brilliant, wasn't it, kid? What the hell happened? So do those things as well. But go and see the Highlands. Go and see Scotland as it is. Because it's a very, very, very beautiful place that's mostly empty. And that's a good thing. Right. Thank you. So I've got a few people to thank. Now I'm going to ask you to hold applause to the end. I don't like the law of diminishing returns with applause. And I think everybody who contributes to something gets the same recognition. So we'll do it at the end and we'll go mental. Okay? That sounds better, doesn't it? Yeah. Pearl! Yay! So, you can whoop and cheer if you wish. I don't object to that. But first of all, the venue. So when you're searching for a venue, you look for specific minimum requirements. I had mine. I extended that minimum requirements due to a talk I heard this morning. But I've got to say, the people here in Glasgow, and the studio venues, this is the third one that I've actually booked a conference at. So I already knew they already did good food, and I already knew that they tried to support you. But the Glasgow people have been extraordinarily friendly as well. Nothing was a problem. When anything happened, you just went to them and said something, and it just was done straight away. And they smiled, and they were grateful that you couldn't talk to them. And that's rare. Very professional, very nice. Loved it. So make sure you go on their Google Plus page or their Facebook page and their Twitter feed and big them up. Then there's all of these people, and actually quite a lot of them love us, which is kind of weird because they keep on employing us as well, which is even weirder. I mean, have you seen you lot? Have you looked in the mirror? Have you looked? I've looked in the mirror. They don't employ me. Crap. Right, so they've seen me right. Yeah, you guys are all better than me in that. Okay, anyway, I love all these people. They love us. They love our community. For the most part, I'm sure they pretty much want to be part of that community. But I love their money. Because I love what I do with it. I can do this conference with it. That's why I love them. And if you can persuade them to give me more money, I'll do more stuff with it. So, you know, if they're going, look at us, we've made a lot of profit this year, you go, yay! Give the Pearl community some money. Okay, so Liz, Andrew, Jeff and Dave all prepared extra stuff for you all this year with workshops. It's not easy to put on a whole day workshop. It's not easy to put on a half day workshop. Each one of these people did a whole day of talking, aside from the talking they did. And that's really, really fantastic. And not only that, there were some people who just came along and did a small thing. So they saw something wrong on the website and they said, this is wrong on the website. So I just gave them a commit bit and said, well, okay, fix it then. Because, you know, I'm a bit busy here. You sort that shit out, it's just GitHub. Go on. Bootstrap, GitHub, go. Fix it. And they did. And then they fixed quite a lot of things. And then they fixed loads of stuff and added in loads of things to do with data and data collection. And Dave Cross, speaking of Dave Cross, we are all the Pearl events. But one day, every Pearl event was this event. Didn't matter what you typed in. Didn't matter you went to Google would tell you that that's the Pearl event in Glasgow because of structured data. Because we were the only one with structured data, and it was actually pointing. So I don't know, Nordic one was pointing to us. Thank you very much. Austrian one was pointing to us. You typed in Austrian Pearl Workshop, and he said the Austrian Pearl Workshop will be held in Glasgow. And I thought, what am I doing here? Suddenly I'm organising all of them on the same day. It's going to be convenient that you lot are here then. You can get all the T-shirts. But There we go. So we've got to love structured data, and Dave then went and corrected it, so it was even better structured data. So if you missed Dave's SEO talk and SEO workshop, you really missed out. I liked it so much when I saw it in London Pro Workshop, which is the shorter version. I paid for one of my members of staff to do it so that we can do it with our stuff. So you're actually missing out if you're not listening in, because it's very clever stuff. And you can really get to the top of the Google lists, and you don't need to spend anything except a little bit of time playing with data. And you guys know how to do that, right? And then there's this guy. All the conferences. He's in some kind of, I know, some kind of war of attrition with Abigail. He's still behind, apparently. So they're not allowed to take each other out with guns. Is what I believe the only rule. Is that right? Thank you, Jeff. Lightning Czar. You are in Europe after all. Well done. Excellent job as always. Thank you very much for coming along. Thank you for bringing the gong. Thank you for doing all of that work so that I didn't have to do a single thing. That's the most appreciative I can get. So, Rick Delev calls me and he says, Mark, there's nobody who's done YAPC for 2018. I think we can do it. We. Now Rick's gone, he's scuttled off, so I can say anything I want right now. We, that's a good term. I like the term we. I am now a royal we, apparently, because Rick had a lot of life stuff, and also he didn't quite realize what a small event this is to run. 5 days is so easy to arrange all of this. However, every time I asked Rick to do something, he did it. When I asked him to get to talk to sponsors, he spoke to them. He took a couple of days off work so that he could work on talking to people and doing stuff. So actually he was there whenever I asked for him, which is more than I actually could have asked. And then there were people who just turned up and helped. So there's Makoto and Lance who did videoing, and we wouldn't have as good a video experience if it wasn't for them helping Tom and Finn with the video streams. And they just said we can help, and they just did that. There's Wendy, who you physically cannot stop helping you. Because she will just pick you up and help you while carrying you. So you just don't stop her. And Arlene, is she here? There's Arlene. So Arlene, everybody thinks she's really young. She's very deceptive. She's actually a septuagenarian. She's looking very good for her age. No, she's been doing Perl for a very long time and nobody realized. She's never been to a Perl conference before, but when she heard there was going to be one in her home city, she volunteered. She's been here for 5 days for you guys. This is her first ever Perl conference. And now she's hiding because she's very embarrassed. So we did a lot of different things with video this year. Now means we've got an open community project to do with video and streaming that we're just going to enhance and get better. And anybody can use it. And we're saying that anybody with any community project, I don't really care if it's Perl. If you can arrange to get the equipment there, there's instructions of how to do it and how to use it so that everybody can use video equipment to their events without having to pay for it. And a lot of that work was done by 2 people, most of it by 1 person, who seems to be on a mission and a plan. So Tom and Finn, special notice, all week, doing the technical work. I asked a lot of them, and they delivered more than I asked for. That's quite stunning. So last person is everybody else, and that's all of you. I love my community. I put it on posters. They said I could do anything I wanted. So that's my message to you all. I love my community. You should love your community too. I think you do. I say Perl. Thanks to all of you. Thank you very much indeed. But if you ask me to do this again, or anything like it anytime soon, I will get a little frothy. Thank you. That's it. Bye.